So around the same time that I stumbled my way into this MPA program, and I say stumbled for a reason, I also stumbled my way into a new career in nonprofit consulting and stumbled my way across a sad-eyed puppy from the Smoky Mountains of Georgia. Little did I know at the time, but this MPA program would go on to impact me in a way that was professional for certain, educational, obviously, but in a surprisingly personal one as well. And that's the story that I'm gonna tell you a little bit about today. So my experience in social impact work started at a really young age. My mom was in academia. I grew up seeing Take Back the Nights and really being involved in gender violence initiatives and work like that. So I knew that I was super excited for my role in nonprofit consulting, but I knew that I wanted to do it right. I wanted to do it effectively. And so in my specific role, I work with individuals on a daily basis that are vulnerable. They are dealing with different issue areas, they have different intersectionalities, they have different experiences that impact their lens. And so my role really revolves around analyzing, synthesizing, thinking critically, and doing so in a way that we can produce data-driven decision-making. And in doing so in a way that's inclusive of the individual's voices and their experiences. And so in this role, it's super important for me to be hyper aware of my own perspective and reflect on that constantly. And that for me is the biggest thing that I took from this MPA program and something that's applied on a professional manner and also a personal one. So when I met a women's shelter that was our new client, I was super excited to get started with them, prove the impact that they had. I made an immediate assumption about how I thought we would prove the outcome of this program, and it was so wrong. I've spent the last year of this program reflecting on this and proving to myself how I can be better in my role as a public administrator. And so for me, this really requires diving into the literature, seeing what the language is, and really learning about the lived experiences, seeking those out in other individuals that are different from myself. And so this applied on a personal manner when I adopted this rescue dog. And I assumed that this dog was going to be the same as the big, goofy, domesticated dogs that I had had my entire life. He was nothing like them. And this was living rent-free in my brain as I was chasing his little butt down the street one morning, screaming after him and wondering why this dog would run away. It was the first home he'd ever had. What I didn't understand in the moment, and what I would go on to understand through this MPA program, is that this little dog had experiences that I knew nothing about, 3 years worth of them. And so he had an identity that I could not understand. And so while I was putting my perspective onto him, I needed to take a step back and take the approach that I had taken in my own work as a nonprofit consultant. So this was a light bulb moment for me in realizing that while his experiences are not comparable to an actual human being, I could take the same approach that I learned in a personal and educational setting and apply this in a very personal one. And so this really does require taking a human-centered approach. In my work with shelters, it was a trauma-informed approach to really consider the experiences of our clients and understand that they're unique in their own intersectionalities. And so to articulate, apply, and advance public value, I truly believe that this is done in a professional way for certain, but a surprisingly personal one as well. And to me, that's what it means to be a public servant, to understand our own intersectionality, and that's what makes us unique, and these many layers within our intersectionality that shape the lens that we see the world through. It's using that intersectionality to reflect on our own positionality in order to amplify diverse voices, in order to make space for individuals who have been underrepresented in these spheres, in order to create space where their voices can be heard and data can be used to drive the solutions from within organizations. And my role is to be super culturally responsive in the communication that I have, to create a comforting, welcoming environment for these individuals to make their experiences known so that we can determine how to prove the impact of their organization. And so public service to me is ethical, equitable, and efficient. It's performing these responsibilities in a way across the board, professionally and personally, because to be a public servant is to dive into the literature, is to look at the language, is to think about the experiences of not only ourselves, but to reflect on how our position can create space for others in the room. This MPA program gave me power to do this, and it gave me a sort of process of reflection that I didn't even know that I needed. And so while this MPA program gave me the tools really to be able to reflect, to be intentional in my actions and how I play a role in a personal and professional sphere, this MPA program also gave me the ability to apply these competencies on a public service level every day in my work, and then also in a very unique way, in a personal way. And that's my presentation.